Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my 15 minutes, episode 29, 29th day of January 2020. This is my 15 minutes of saying whatever I feel like saying to whoever wants to listen to it. it's I don't know what it is. So far, it's just been me running my mouth. The only excitement actually came from when my future sister-in-law, Janet, came and had her little 15 minutes, and she did really well. But she had a point to make, and she made it, and a lot of people tuned in to hear it, whereas nobody's tuning in to hear me. But that's okay. That's okay. If nothing else, I'll do this for a year. I'll document my thoughts, and hopefully my kids will be able to look through it someday and, see something about their old man. Reminisce a little bit. Not always take on today's topics. For instance, when I was in my early 20s, I lived just a little bit from here, right around the corner. A little place called Echo Farm. At the time, it was a 40-acre piece. It had an old farmhouse. It had a little house behind the farmhouse. It had a raised rancher on another far end of the property, back in the back part. And it had been a summer camp for kids. It had a screened-in pavilion, dining hall, kitchen. It had about 10 or 12 cabins. Each cabin slept, I thought, maybe 8. I think there was 2, 4, 6. I think there was 8. 4 sets of double bunks. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was only 4 to a cabin. But anyway, we had a pond, and we had this property. Now, for the most part, nobody. There was nobody at the camp. By that point, by the time we were living there, the camp was done being a camp. As a matter of fact, now the property's been renovated. You wouldn't even recognize it from what we were. I mean, we were hippies. We were living in the old farmhouse. We had almost no heat. We had. There was 3 of us in the house, in the farmhouse. 3 guys. We shared it. Ron and Jim and I. And it was party central, I guess you could say. We had a kitchen. It was a very simple farmhouse. It had a basement that actually somebody had put a fallout shelter into at some point. But that was falling in on itself by the time we were there. It wasn't built very well, but anyway, it had a basement, it had a fallout shelter, and but upstairs, the first floor, it had a kitchen at one end, a big room in the middle, and then a big room at the other end. And so we made the big room in the middle the pool room and put a pool table in there, and we made the other big room in the other end of the house the music and party rooms, because we put a big stereo together and had speakers studio monitors hanging from the ceiling, with a big, huge, high-powered stereo system and amp and turntable, and it ran a lot. I mean, we listened to music, and primarily the reason, is because behind our house, and the reason we were there in the first place, lived Howard and his girlfriend at the time, Becky, soon to be his wife and soon to be the mother of his children. And the reason Ron and Jim and I even got the house is because Howard knew about it and helped us with the landlord and got us in the property, and so that was that. But anyway, Howard was a songwriter, a musician, singer. Very, very talented individual. One of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. And he had a band, or we put together a band. He put together a band, and I ended up being the manager of the band for a while. And so we were on this piece of property, not actually working. I mean, other than going out and playing music and getting paid for that, and hustling for every dime we could get from wherever we could play or whatever. So, but somehow we got by. Ron and Tim were working. Ron, they were. In the three of us in the house, I was the one that was always scrambling. So, but I managed Howard, and we had a great, that was a great time. We had one of the greatest parties ever given in Bucks County. We had, I can't remember if it was Memorial Day weekend or something just before that. Right in May though, we had a 3-day weekend, and the band played. We opened up the farm to everybody. They came for miles around. Probably Saturday night of the party that started. Actually, people started coming Thursday, and then because we planned on it starting Friday, but people got there early, and so they did, and but then they Friday, and then Saturday, and then Sunday, and then Monday. So, but the big thing was Saturday. We had the big crowd Saturday and Saturday night. We must have had 500 people there. The band was playing to beat the band. You could hear at that time there wasn't nearly as much traffic down on 309. This was a long time ago, almost 50 years. Uh, but certainly over 45 is 46, whatever, 45, 46 years, somewhere around there now. But anyway, at that point, you could hear the music from the party at Zoto's Diner. That's way down the road a bit, down on 309 here in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania. It was, well, the farm was on top of the hill, and there was a valley all the way down to the other end. But the band was loud. Don't get me wrong. This was a rock and roll band playing Howard's original music, and it was loud. We had a couple of incidences. There used to be a gentleman lived over in Danborough. He had a motorcycle shop. His name was Bear, and Bear was pretty well known in this area, and he loved Howard. The name of the band was Bearcat Jones. That was the name at the time. Howard was the Bearcat. Jones just sounded good. But Bear, he loved this band. Well, he followed wherever we played. He was there almost always, with his girlfriend mostly. Sometimes not, but mostly with his girlfriend. And Bear, I don't know how he did it, but he always ended up with a beautiful girlfriend. But anyway, this Saturday night of this party, he was there with his girlfriend and with a bunch of other people that he brought in. And at some point, right around midnight or maybe a little before or after, we weren't celebrating anything. There was no fireworks to go off, but Bear pulled out a 9mm, I think, and started firing it into the sky. Scared the living hell out of people. Today, people would be, diving for cover, and there would be blood all over the place. But he was firing it in the air, and luckily no bullet came down and crushed somebody's head or anything. But that was the height of that. But it was, we partied till early morning. I mean, well, it didn't stop partying until Monday, or some people didn't get out of there till Tuesday. What happened with the New Britain Township Police didn't have jurisdiction at that time because we lived in Hilltown Township. And so the New Britain Township Police were patrolling Township Line Road, but they couldn't come onto the property. And for some reason, the Hilltown Police elected not to bother us, not to interfere. I think they may have come onto the property once and said, I know you're having a party, have a good time, try and keep it down. Please don't let anybody drive out of here drunk or something like that. So we, well, we had already planned to have everybody, if they wanted to, camp or sleep or find a place in one of the, cottages or the cabin things or whatever. So we just told people to don't go anywhere because the New Britain cops are out on the street. You stay here till you're sober. So they did, and it was a good time. It was a good time. Those were early days of the movement, the hippie movement, 60s, the 70s. This was really going toward the end of the 80s, where well, I shouldn't say it was the early days, or the middle days of the hippie movement. The later days, in the late 70s, early days where it died off, that was the end of that. But at that time, we, we were having a great time. We were playing at the shore quite a bit that one summer, that first summer, and playing down in Wildwood, going down virtually every weekend, playing in Wildwood, getting drunk in Wildwood, partying in Wildwood, getting bushels of clams, bringing them back to Hilltown, and devouring them. I ate so many clams that year, I haven't eaten a clam since. Ask anybody that knows me. I won't have a clam. I love oysters. I certainly don't have a problem with that, but I don't want them cooked. I don't want them cooked. I like oysters raw. I like them on the half shell. But I'll never eat another clam again as long as I live. Although I shouldn't say that anything bad about clams. I didn't get sick. I didn't have an episode like my brother did once. Donald, he'll tell you, he had a bad clam incident in Massachusetts, actually, on the eve of my brother's wedding. My other brother, David, Donald, we were all Donald he got the sick though. But anyway, I never had a bad clam that summer. I just got sick of them. I ate so many weeks. They were so cheap. You could buy a bushel of clams for $1.25 or something. I don't even know, $2. We bought bushels and brought them back, and we just boiled. We had this huge. Somebody, I don't remember who brought it, but somebody brought over one of those pots, those clam pots, those big, dark blue with spot things. I forgot what they call that, but big thing. You just put all your clams in there and put some water in the bottom, and the next thing you know, they're opening up, and you're sitting there with 5 pounds of butter melted. I think it's the butter that actually does it. Although I'm not off butter, I just am off clams. But I certainly love butter. I shouldn't. It's like loving sugar. You shouldn't love butter. You shouldn't love sugar. You shouldn't love bread. Oh my God, all the things you shouldn't love. But anyway, clams I don't have a problem with. Although I'd be better off if I did still love them, because that's pure protein and I can eat that. not supposed to eat anything else. But anyway, those years were an interesting time. I can reminisce some more about that at another point, I guess. But Howard's gone. I don't know where Becky and the kids are anymore. I was not a good person when it was time to deal with Howard's death. I was just not a good person at all with that. And yeah, actually, it's, but anyway, those were good years, wild years, a lot of experimentation before figuring it. And I did. Well, there was another 20 years before I figured anything out. Anyway, I didn't really start figuring anything out until I was in my late 30s. But anyway, we're on the countdown now. We're at the end of this 15 minutes. If anybody's watching, probably not. But again, that's okay. I'm just doing it for myself. But whoever it might be watching, good night. Take care of yourself. I hope you take care of those you love. And I hope they take care of you on the way back. So, good night. Take care.